Okay, guys, you got to watch this clip. This is Jon Stewart the other night on Stephen Colbert. So, two things. First, you know that Jon Stewart is much funnier than Stephen Colbert, even though they're both leftists. But a month ago, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, the powers that be would have shut you down for this. Now you have an audience laughing along because he is saying what any independent thinker with a brain has been questioning for 18 months. Watch and see for yourself, and I'll be back with some more commentary.
Science has, in many ways, helped ease the suffering of this pandemic, which was more than likely caused by science.
There's a chance that this was created in a lab. There's an investigation.
A chance?
Well, but
oh my
if there was
God.
evidence, I'd love to hear it. I
There's
just don't know.
a novel respiratory coronavirus overtaking Wuhan, China. What do? Oh, you know who we could ask? The Wuhan Novel Respiratory Coronavirus Lab. The disease is the same name as the lab. That's just a little too weird, don't you think? And then they ask the scientists, they're like, how did this... So wait a minute, you work at the Wuhan Respiratory Coronavirus Lab. How did this happen? And they're like, a pangolin kissed a turtle? And you're like, no, the name of your lab. If you look at the name, let me see your business card. Show me your business card. Oh, I work at the coronavirus lab in Wuhan. Oh, because there's a coronavirus loose in Wuhan. How did that happen? Maybe a bat flew into the cloaca of a turkey and then it sneezed into my chili and now we all have coronavirus. Like, come on.
Wait a second.
What about this?
Okay, amazing clip, because of course, people like me have been saying this for 18 months with no inside knowledge, no scientific knowledge. It just makes sense. Of course there's a high probability that this thing came from the lab that studies these viruses, about 3 feet away from the wet markets where they said that it came from. Which was more likely, that this thing came from a bat and it mutated so rapidly and was able to affect people so specifically, or that it came from the lab where they're actually studying these things on a daily basis? Of course that was the case. Of course that was always the most plausible. I'm not saying it is, because I don't want to get thrown off the platforms. But over the last year and a half, had you suggested this, left-wingers, their allies in big tech, media, they would have ridiculed you into a corner. They would have silenced you. They would have canceled you for suggesting that COVID came from a Chinese lab in the same town a few feet away from the supposed wet markets where they told you it definitely came from. They would have destroyed you for that. It's mind-boggling. And yet now, that audience is laughing along, and it's funny. That same audience, because if they're watching Stephen Colbert, there's a high probability that that same audience would have run you down in the streets for suggesting anything other than the gospel spoon-fed to you by the media. That had nothing to do with science. That didn't have anything to do with common sense. That didn't have anything to do with anything other than trying to hurt Donald Trump, in my opinion, okay? If Trump would have retweeted this, they would have thrown him off a platform. And yet now it turns out, it seems that he was right for questioning these things. Seems like now, because of science, the most probable outcome, you know, Occam's razor, the most likely outcome probably is. Now, the most likely one probably is. And people are getting it, and they're laughing at it. Too bad it's a little bit late. China's going to do whatever they can to cover it up. This audience is no longer going to try to run you down in the streets for thinking that. They're going to laugh along and it's all cute. But we all know what their reaction would have been like. We all know what Stephen Colbert would have done had you brought up this as a possibility a few short weeks ago. Okay, watching him squirm because of the ridiculousness that these morons pushed for so long is a little bit refreshing, but it's too late for so many of those that could have perhaps been helped had we figured this stuff out sooner, had we done something like actually follow science and logic and probability and reason rather than just do whatever we can to try to hurt Trump, okay? Any conservative, any independent thinker, they've been wondering this with almost certainty for 18 months. Now, it's okay. Jon Stewart and Bill Maher are becoming like the voices of reason within the bizarro world of TDS, Trump derangement syndrome affected leftists. They're the ones actually talking about these things. Again, at what other point in time was this not the most likely explanation? And yet, had you brought it up more than 2 weeks ago, okay, you would have been destroyed and you would have been tarred and feathered by scientists, the Fauci scientists, bureaucrat in a lab coat type scientists, by the media, by the left, by social. You'd be canceled, deplatformed, and otherwise. What's going to happen to those people that were hit? Nothing. There won't be an apology. There won't be anything. They'll just wait till the next leftist hysteria, not backed by anything other than narrative, comes along, and we'll see a repeat of the same thing over and over again, guys. I hope you all wake up to it, because someone has to.